Welcome to our second family forum today on April the 20th. Thank you all for being here. If you are just joining us, please take the opportunity to type your name into the chat. That is the way that we record attendance for each of these meetings. Here's our agenda for tonight. I have an announcement to share with everybody, and then we're going to talk about the next two phases, phase 2 and phase 3 of reopening for Henry School. And then as always, we'll wrap up with question, answer, and discussion. So this is the announcement I wanted to share with everybody today. I did send this out on Remind, I believe, on Monday as well. The School District of Philadelphia has started COVID testing for students and families, and it is a free access to testing. There are 5 school-based locations. The closest one to CW Henry School is King High School, but depending on where you live or where you work, some of these other ones might be useful for you as well. So we have had a couple of families who've taken advantage of this since Monday. I've heard through the grapevine that it is always better to make an appointment so that you can be seen sooner rather than later, but these locations do accept walk-ups as well. There are links here in the chat, on the slide, and I will copy and paste these links into the chat if anybody wants to save that for themselves. And if we have anybody who speaks different languages at home, they do have flyers translated into a number of different languages. I think this is a really important resource. We've had a number of families who've sought out COVID testing for their child or other members of their household as a precautionary step to make sure that we're doing everything we can do to keep our students and staff safe at Henry School. So I hope, if needed, people do take advantage of this free resource. We're going to move on now to talk about reopening. I'm going to start first with just a summary of sort of what's been going on. So we're currently in phase 1, which is our kindergarten, first and second graders in the building. Here's an update from the last time we had a meeting. So we have, on average, 63 kids signed up to come to school on Mondays and Tuesdays, and we have slightly less, 56 students coming on Thursdays and Fridays. If you are a kindergarten first or second grade parent and your child is virtual, but you're thinking maybe you want to try hybrid before the year is over, you can enroll your child, I'd say mostly at any time. We need a little bit of notice, but if you didn't opt in on the previous surveys, you can still choose for your child to come back to Henry. So if you're a lower grade parent in this category, just send me an email. I have to do, we look at the landscape of the class, seeing how many kids we have in each cohort, the ratio of male to female students, and thinking about needs, and we try to fit everybody in. So if you would like your child to return and they have not returned yet, and you're a K1 or 2 parent, please do reach out to me to figure out the next steps. So last week, the survey that was sent out by the School District of Philadelphia closed for families in phase 2. So that's our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade classrooms, as well as class 201, which is our autistic support classroom for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. So we are looking forward to welcoming this cohort of kids back into the school building beginning next week on Monday, April the 26th. So earlier today, members of our office team reached out to all 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade families. So they either called you and left a voicemail or sent an email just to confirm which cohort assignment we have you assigned to. We so far have 61 students who are going to be returning for the first time next week, which we're really looking forward to welcoming them. One point I just want to clarify for some families is that you can, as a parent, log on to the parent portal or log in through your student account and see in Infinite Campus at the top of their student information page. Right now, there's a little icon that will say digital. Even though your child is scheduled into a cohort, it's still going to say digital right now, because for the rest of this week, all 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders are still scheduled for digital learning. Beginning next week on Monday, April 26th, you'll be able to see the designation for cohort A or cohort B. And then finally, I believe it was last Monday, the school district announced that they are ready to welcome back our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So these are the students in our general education upper school classrooms. So the survey went live today. It is a survey that's emailed by the School District of Philadelphia. Of course, there were some bumps in the road we encountered with this. Not everybody's receiving the email. So if you are a 3 to 5 parent and you never received the email to to opt back in, or if you're a 6 to 8 parent in the same category, don't worry, it's okay. You don't have to fill out the official survey. You can either send me an email directly, send our school secretary an email directly, or call the main office during school hours, and Ms. Liu can log your preference. The survey that opened for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade families, I think I got about 20 responses so far, so I do know that it went out. And the survey officially is open until next Tuesday, the 27th. So what we will do at that time, once the survey closes, we look based for each homeroom to see how many students have signed up, and then we split those students into either cohort A on Monday, Tuesday, or cohort B on Thursdays and Fridays. One thing that I think is really important to make sure that everyone knows is that if you have a child who's already attending school in another grade, by default, we group siblings together. So if your child is already scheduled on Monday and Tuesday, your other child will also be scheduled on Monday and Tuesday unless you reach out to me to make a separate request. And there was one mistake that my team made where we accidentally separated siblings. If that is the case, please just let us know and we will correct that problem. Some additional information about reopening. So one thing that I wanted to clarify is the difference between the School District of Philadelphia's protocols for a positive, if an individual tests positive in our school building, in contrast with the Philadelphia Department of Public Health. So last week we had an incident where an individual in a classroom tested positive through symptomatic testing, and that resulted in a class isolation period. So all of the students who were in that cohort with the individual who tested positive did need to stay home for 14 days and participate in virtual learning. I had a parent ask earlier why that happened, and I think that's a really important distinction that I want to make. What I learned after going through this experience is that the School District of Philadelphia has some protocols that are a little bit stricter than the guidance that's on the Philadelphia Department of Public Health's website. So the guidance that the School District of Philadelphia is following is that when an individual in a classroom, so a child, tests positive, their guidance is that the entire class will then isolate for 14 days, participate in learning from home as a precaution. What the Philadelphia Department of Public Health says on their website is that if a child in a classroom tests positive, the only additional individuals who need to quarantine are those who have direct contact, which is defined as within 6 feet of distance for more than 15 minutes. The reason that the parent asked the question this morning is that because in our classrooms, we're following all social distancing guidelines. So kids are not within 6 feet of each other. The question was, why did the class have to quarantine at home? And that is the reason. The School District of Philadelphia has an extra layer of precaution just to make sure that we're keeping everybody safe. If you're the parent of a kindergarten first or second grader, you may have seen the YouTube video that I shared about a month ago when our youngest students came back to the building. I got a lot of positive feedback on the video, and I have made a slideshow for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students as well. I just need to record my video. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to record it and send it out. But what this video does is it walks you through the common spaces in our school building. It shows some of the differences, things that will seem new to kids since they haven't been in school now for over a year. It talks about our social distancing guidelines, the procedure that we follow for breakfast and for lunch and recess, as well as, transitioning in the hallways and using the bathrooms. So this is a video that hopefully I'm gonna find some time tomorrow or later tonight to record it, send it out to all teachers at the end of the week, and I'll definitely send it out to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade families so that your child can watch it at home, or you can watch it with your child in preparation for them returning to the school building. Something that we've talked about week after week is that all students returning to the school building do have to consent. Their families have to consent to COVID testing. So there's an electronic form. Let me drop it in the chat right now. I will definitely put it, I think I sent it out on Remind You there yesterday. And this is important. So let me put it in the chat for anybody who needs it. Of course, we have paper copies at school, but the electronic form is a little bit easier. So if your child is returning to school, or if you're a 6th, 7th, or 8th grade parent and you know your child will be returning and you want to just get ahead of the game, you can feel free to fill out this form now. I'm going to talk about this on the next slide, but I do want to share some information about the Pssa, which is our standardized exam for students in grades 3 to 8. The Pssa is continuing this school year. So before I get to the Pssa, some frequently asked questions. This was a big one. So if you have constraints at home with your work schedule or with a learning pod that your child is in, I cannot guarantee that I can assign your child to the cohort that you want, but I will do my best. So if you're a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade parent signing up and you really need specific days of the week, please send me a request sooner rather than later. If you're a 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade parent and you got a phone call, email, or a voicemail today and the cohort assignment will not work for your family situation, please just send me an email and we do our best to shuffle things around. I think so far we've been able to grant 90 to 95% of the requests. We do not have uniforms for the 2021 school year. So no, if your child is coming back, they do not need to wear a uniform. The most important thing is that they are just coming to school in safe, closed-toed shoes. Anything must have a strap on the back, nothing with an open back. I do recommend that kids wear layers because we're trying to open as many windows as possible. Sometimes in the morning, it's a little bit chilly. This morning is an example, it was in the high 40s and then really beautiful later in the afternoon. So I recommend just sending a sweatshirt, jean jacket, something lightweight so that nobody feels cold in the building. This has been a hot topic of conversation, recess time and outdoors time. Yes, all kids at Henry are definitely spending at least 25 minutes outside each day for recess, oftentimes more. So every kid after lunchtime is having recess time. This is also going to be true for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders when they come back to school next week. The way we've crafted our schedule is that teachers have some additional time where they can extend lunchtime recess before any other classes come out. And then many classes take an additional break either in the morning or the afternoon, depending on the schedule that they have set with the students who are learning from home. At this time, we are not doing instruction outside or eating lunches outside, purely for logistical reasons. We're doing it in our cafeteria. So we've had a lot of success with that. We've felt that it's been safe. It's been very orderly, and the kids are doing an excellent job making sure that they're spread out and keeping each other healthy and safe. And then last but not least, the frequently asked question of if you are sort of on the fence and you're not sure if you want your child to remain virtual or come back to school hybrid, I ask that you just reach out so we can have an individual conversation. You don't need to say that, yes, I'm going to pick hybrid so that you can revert later, because I have the flexibility to put anybody in a hybrid cohort at any time. So you don't have to feel restrained by the survey period and the selection window. All right, last but not least, we're going to talk very briefly about the PSSAs. So the School District of Philadelphia is administering the PSSA as well as Pssa, which is the alternative assessment, to all eligible students who return to the school building this year. So for students in grades 3, 4, and 5, the school district has set a testing window of May the 3rd to June the 4th. Miss Rama, Karen Rama, is our testing coordinator this year. She's done this a couple of times. So she really is, she's one of our special education learning support teachers. She's an excellent testing coordinator. So if you have any questions for her about the procedure for standardized exams or like any questions, small or large, she's really the go-to person to ask. And I put her email address there. So right now, the School District of Philadelphia has not released a testing window for grades 6, 7, and 8. I'll definitely circle back with that information as soon as I have it. Something that I think is important to highlight is, as always, families do have the option to opt their child out of standardized testing. That's not a new practice. If this is something that you would want to do, you don't want your child to take a standardized test, you just have to submit a request in writing. Most people send an email directly to me. I forward it to Ms. Rama, and she just has to schedule a conversation with you, and there's some paperwork to sign. A couple of more important things about the PSSA. It is only being administered to students who are in the school building. There is no virtual administration. And then the last thing I think that's important to say about the PSSA is that the School District of Philadelphia is making what they've called a good faith effort, meaning that We are administering this year because the testing is tied to some things that are really important. So school districts that do not administer the standardized exams are not going to receive the same amount of Title I or federally funded dollars, which is so crucial for so many of our schools in the city, which is a reason why we have to make a good faith effort in testing. So what that means is that we're going to be testing the students who are in our building. I have not heard anything about testing students who are virtual. Additionally, the school district of Philadelphia applied for a number of different waivers with the Pennsylvania Department of Education. One of the waivers extended our testing window. So usually there's a very succinct amount of time when we're able to administer the tests. This window has been extended. Additionally, historically, schools have been negatively affected if more than 5% of their student testing population opts out. There's a complex formula that in the past has negatively impacted schools who've seen a large percentage of opt-outs. As per the waiver, that is not happening this year. So a question that came up earlier in our morning meeting is, if I opt my child out of standardized tests, will CW Henry School be negatively impacted? The answer that I can give you right now is no, I have not received any information indicating that will happen. What I did surface for parents, that I just want to be as transparent as possible, is that if I were a parent trying to determine if my child was going to take the standardized test or not, I would, there's a number of things to consider. One thing that I think is important to keep in mind is that if your child is on the cusp of applying to high school, or if you're interested in a magnet program and a more competitive program, typically standardized test scores have been used as one of the criteria for admission. Of course, this past year, when our 8th graders were applying to high school, they didn't have Pssa scores for the previous year. So schools transitioned to using other measures to determine their admission criteria. This has not been a topic of conversation amongst school leaders yet. So I can't say one way or another how standardized testing data will be used for magnet school admission and high school admission next year. I do just want to bring that up for everyone because it is something I think that you should be weighing out the pros and cons if you're determining what the next best move is for your child. Yes, I see in the chat you said Dr. Height did announce at a board meeting that Pssa scores would not be used. I would like it in writing personally as a school leader, because I've heard some conflicting statements as well. But I do hope that they won't be used. Yeah. So yeah, just going back to that, Dr. Height did say that they wouldn't be used in high school admissions. I would feel better as a school leader if I see that in writing. I haven't seen it in writing yet. And also, they've been reassuring school leaders that the performance of students on this year's Pssa will not negatively impact any school. I just take that all with a grain of salt. I feel a little bit skeptical about that statement, although it's been reiterated multiple times, because I feel like that's the purpose of standardized tests, right? To sort of gauge how students are doing. Obviously this year, there's a lot of things that have to be taken into consideration, but those are the things on my mind. So we asked a question about what will the students who are virtual be doing while students are testing in person? That's a great question that I cannot answer for you at this moment. I was just talking to my testing coordinator about that earlier today. So to give you a little bit more information, historically, we've had, I'd say anywhere from 3 to 5 kids in grades 3 to 8 opt out of the Pssa. It's my prediction, I might be wrong, but it's my prediction that this year we're going to see a higher number of kids opt out. If you do choose to have your child opt out, that does not mean that they need to stay home. We still provide instruction at the school level. But testing usually is a situation where it's all hands on deck, because we have to shuffle teachers around. We have to sometimes create smaller testing environments for students based on needs on IEPs. So if students are opting out of testing and they do come to school, we'll be providing some sort of alternative programming. It's going to depend on how many kids we're talking about. So that's why I can't tell you exactly what it's going to be now. Also, another question I had this morning is, yeah, look, to Zoe's point, if you're at home and you're not taking the PSSA, what is school going to look like for you? So once I have a better sense of our actual numbers of who's going to be taking the PSSA, we can talk. I can give you some more specific information about that. So that brings us to the end of the information for today's family forum. If I missed your question in the chat, you can either retype it or come off of mute. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. And if there's anything, this morning we had a number of really great questions. So if there's anything coming to your mind, please share at this time.
For the testing that will happen, I'm just assuming that like a students in a hybrid and a non-testing grade level that won't like change their schedule or anything like that during the testing windows.
It shouldn't. It doesn't usually. Sometimes the only thing that it impacts is we might delay lunches a little bit because if the kids are loud outside, but I don't really expect that to be an issue this year. I had some questions earlier about the amount of testing that students participate in. So in grades 3 to 8, they take ELA, which has 3 sections. It's typically done across 3 different days. And then math is 2 sections. And students in grades 4 and 8 also take the science exam, which is 2 sections. One thing that I'm working with our testing coordinator to figure out our schedule is that some schools this year are combining sections so that kids can do more than 1 section on a day. We're weighing out the pros and cons. So like test exhaustion is a real thing. Like these booklets are thick. We don't want kids rushing through just because they're tired and they want to be done. But at the same time, with a limited number of in-person days, we definitely don't want to spend an extended amount of time testing kids rather than actually teaching them and having worthwhile experiences in school. So that's what we're trying to figure out. Our testing materials only got delivered to the school building yesterday. So we're still, just to be transparent, like very much in the planning phase. Hey, Gina, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Number one, if you don't take the PSSAs now, would they be re-administered in September? That's what's kind of like a rumor I heard.
Yeah. My understanding is no, but I do need to double check on that. I just think for test security, it's highly unlikely that they would administer it to some students and then to other ones later.
Okay, got you. Also, for the COVID testing, does it matter if like a parent is vaccinated or not, or that's just the school district rule?
To my understanding, it's just the school district rule.
Okay.
I know for staff members, like I myself am fully vaccinated. If a staff member who's fully vaccinated and 2 weeks out is exposed, they can still come to work. Yay. We don't have to stay home.
Yay, right. And then what's the other question I had? So I have, my 3rd grader who's starting, my 4th grader who's starting, and then my 6th grader who's starting. But then I realized they'll be in the same cohort, but she's in middle school, so she'll have different teachers. So I guess you'll have to see, it's not guaranteed she'll have the same teachers, I guess.
What do you mean?
Because in middle school, like there's like 2 middle school teachers. So like if she goes on the same cohort day as Ava, will she have the same the middle school teachers that she has right now be her same ones on her cohort day in general?
Very well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. All righty.
So the way that it's working for middle school, and this is the way it works for specials right now, is that we don't have students transitioning throughout the building. We have adults transitioning. So typically, I know your daughter's in 6th grade, but typically the kids are moving throughout the hallways. Now they'll be staying in their homeroom and the teachers will be circulating.
Oh, okay. So that makes it easier. All right. Thank you.
No problem. And I know I scheduled them both on the same day because I did that today.
Hi, Ms. Davis.
Hi.
I had heard from a parent at another district school that her principal was increasing the number of in-person days because of the number of students in the building. And I just hadn't heard anywhere that principals had that discretion. Couldn't think of somewhere else to ask that question other than coming here. So I just want to see what you had to say about that.
We definitely do not have that ability. So okay. Children who have are in what the district calls complex needs classrooms. So at Henry, that's our autistic support classrooms. They attend school 4 days a week. Those are the only students permitted to do so. Everybody else is just 2 days.
Okay, and as far as you understand, like what's been released at this point is what will be released. Like the last announcement they said is that's the last group of kids that are coming in. So there won't be any changes to hybrid from now until the end of the school year, right?
I haven't heard of anything, no.
Okay.
It, I mean, you're welcome. At Henry, we're in a little bit of a different situation. Like I'm planning for more kids every day than any of my colleagues that I know of. So I do know like some schools still have very few kids in the school building. So a principal might be making an exception, but we're not allowed to do that.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And then the last couple of things that I'm just thinking of that came up in previous meetings is that I know it's very much on people's minds trying to plan for next year. There have been questions about, is the school district of Philadelphia still going to follow the 6-foot social distancing? Are they going to change to the 3-foot guidance from the CDC? There hasn't been an official ruling on that. In my own personal opinion, that's going to be crucial for the next school year if we want to see school back to normal. Which I don't even want to say normal because there's a lot of lessons learned, things that are going to be different. But the way that we are now with our occupancy numbers in our classrooms, we can't have a full class of 30 kids and still have, well, we don't have 30 kids, but like 25 kids and 6-foot social distancing. Like the classrooms just aren't big enough for that. So we are just going to have to see what happens.
Can you with 3-foot distancing?
To be honest, I haven't measured it.
I guess it would have to be, right, they do all those assessments, but yeah, I was wondering, even if we go to 3 feet, I can imagine you still need a certain percentage to stay virtual.
Yeah, I mean, it would be much easier because when we push desks together, like by default, the kids are at least 3 feet apart. So to be determined, we'll see. Any other questions? Hey, Jermaine. So no, and you know, I was actually thinking of your family. The K-2 hybrid window is not closed. If you want Zaya to come back, just let me know. We're flexible. Any other questions? Well, thank you all. I've just been joking with my staff, like it feels like Groundhog's Day. We've gone through this so many times. I'm really glad that we are bringing more students back into the building because I know a lot of families have been eagerly waiting for this situation and to have this opportunity. So I think in a lot of people's mind, it feels like the clock is running out. We're so close to the end of the year. I get that. I see both sides of it. On the other side of it though, I am glad that kids will have a chance if families choose to do so to return to the building before September, because if we had to reintroduce 500 kids in September after so long, that would be really difficult. So this feels like a trial run, and you know, it's just been wonderful to see so many people. So I'm going to stop the recording at this time. If you do have a private question or something specific to you, feel free to stay logged on. And if not, you all know how to be in touch. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Bye.